This is gonna be the Board of Health meeting for Wednesday, January 8th. We're still doing it hybrid, so pursuant to chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, signed into law on March 29th, 2023. This meeting be conducted through remote means and in person, as long as members of the public can easily access the proceedings in real time and participate remotely. So further notice, this meeting will no longer be broadcast live, but may be watched when the show is replayed on YouTube. Members of the public who wish to participate in the meeting may do so in the following manner. In person, welcome to the little tiny Atlantic meeting room on the 4th floor at Plymouth Town Hall, 26 Court Street, Plymouth. There's obviously an occupancy limit here, but I don't think that's a problem, at least not yet. You can also participate remotely by using the link and the password provided on the agenda. So first item of business today, I'm hoping that we can probably be very efficient tonight.
Let's do it.
Septic variance request, State Road, Glen Harrington.
It's me.
Oh, hello.
I don't know where you want me to.
That's a
go.
good
Do you want to
question.
put it here?
Come on over.
Or-
Come on over.
It's cozy in here
I
tonight.
guess it is, yeah, that's fine. Well, I drove up from the Cape and not stuck my face on the TV. Good afternoon, Glenn Harrington representing Dunright Excavation, who is a contractor to do the work at 564 State Road. I had prepared a Title V plan back in May, which I did share with the health agent. And it ended up that was gonna be cost prohibitive to install because the entire concrete foundation behind the dwelling would have to be removed. And also with the mitigation from what Conservation Commission wanted for that. So the owner and the contractor decided that tight tank was their best option to go forward with, so I changed the design to a 2,000 gallon tight tank. It's in the proposed tight tank is in the location of the primary cesspool. There is an overflow cesspool on the record, even though I did not find it in the field. This has been through conservation. I do have a order of conditions. This is a 1-bedroom dwelling, built circa 1940. Right on a wetland, a little tributary that goes down to the brook. I forget the name of the brook. Beaver Dam Brook. At that, I think it's a relatively straightforward install. I guess I'll take questions at that point.
Okay. So there were 2 cesspools there, they're still there.
Yes, they are failed, yes,
They are being removed and remediated.
yes.
Okay. And the tight tank pumping frequency, is that only going to be done based on the alarm system? Or is there some schedule set for it?
Right now, it's just based on the alarm system. There will be a alarm set 3/5 capacity for Title V.
Okay. And is this property on town water or?
It is on town water.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we have to have any abutters?
I do have one of butters notice.
Thank you.
There were only 2.
Oh,
The
yeah,
state was
okay.
1, and then I notified them before when the meeting was changed, so I notified them for this meeting.
Okay. And they are not here or joining us online.
I did not hear from either of the abutters.
Neither did we.
Okay. Any other questions?
I just want to get Karen's take on the tight tank versus the system.
Well, if this was new construction, I would advise you to say an absolute no. But due to the fact that this house is existing
Mhm.
and that we're replacing a cesspool, and with the conservation,
Mhm.
conditions that have already been made known to the owner and the engineer, I would have to say this is the best
This is the
scenario.
best. Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. I mean, I think you and I are probably on the same page when it comes to tight tanks
Mhm.
and,
Mhm.
you know, but if you've, I know.
And they tried.
Yep.
We definitely tried to get a system in there and it can't happen. I mean, so.
Okay.
And here's why, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
That's what a Title V system would look like.
so what is this concrete foundation?
It's just an old foundation. It looks original. It is poured over block. It is a serious foundation. And it's got a full slab to it with drainage in it. I don't know what was there. I didn't do the full historical on the property, but it was sizable. That's a 30 by 30
Mhm.
addition.
How much would that cost to take it out?
It's that and then the cost of the new system. Because the
Yeah.
new system would be a 2,000 gallon tank, 1,500, 500 gallon pump chamber. But because of the soil, which was another reason why I think a tight tank is the way to go here, is that it was a silt loam and I actually considered it a silt clay loam in the
Oh, wow.
field, but it ended up, we did a sieve analysis and, incredibly compact. The soil came out in chips when the
So
excavator
it would be an
went
awful
through it,
system.
so.
Like
It
it
would
would
be.
be, it would be,
It would be, yeah, it
Yeah,
would
this
be.
is
And I'm
consolidated.
comfortable with the fact that it's just a one bedroom house. If this was a larger house, we'd be having another conversation. But I think that, you know, a one bedroom house with a tight tank, again, not ideal by any stretch of the imagination.
right,
But
right,
I think doing the best that
yeah,
can be done with what's available.
sounds like it, thank you.
And better than cesspools.
Of course, yeah,
Everything's better than cesspools.
yeah.
The Title V system, it isn't dead in the water, but right now, because this was a new purchase, the bank is looking for some permit to be issued. So, but the tight tank is what I was told to go forward with. So you may see me again in the future for the Title V system.
So basically it's, because the tight tank is such an awful option, the new homeowners might be like, you know what? We're just gonna
Yeah,
bite the bullet
Yeah.
and, okay,
I have prepared something conservation knows, and they know the board's feeling about tight tanks, so they said, we're probably gonna see you again.
Yeah.
So, it wasn't left open-ended, but everybody understood that this
Mhm.
may still move forward.
yeah, well, it sounds like you guys have done a lot of work in
Uh,
making
since
the,
A
making
year,
the
a year in the
best out of
making,
an
so
extremely bad situation, so.
a lot of pumping on the homeowners. part,
Yeah,
Mhm.
But,
yeah.
this was not an easy site.
Mhm.
I know, well, yeah, cause I mean, if you figure one bedroom's 100 gallons a day, that's gonna be every 15 days, every 2 weeks, you pump a tank?
Money-wise, it's a wash as far as
Mhm.
the amount of, for what the system would have cost, $60,000 or so for a system there.
Yeah,
That's a lot of pumping.
yeah,
That gets them through a little bit until they can figure something else out.
wow. Alright, thank you,
Tough one. Very good.
Mhm.
no question.
Lorenzo, do you have anything to ask?
Yeah, so kind of coattailing the question around pumping. So it's going to be pumped every 2 weeks. Is there a maintenance agreement? What happens if it's not pumped and it just backs up into the house? I mean, how does that all work out? Maybe that's a question for Karen or whatnot.
Are you talking about currently with the cesspool?
No, I'm talking
Because-
about when they put the tight tank in.
Yeah, it'll be alarmed, so they'll
It'll be
know, and
alarmed.
if they choose to ignore the alarm, then they have poop in their house. I mean, it's pretty easy. I mean, you either
Yeah.
destroy your home or
Yeah.
you pay someone to come out when the alarm goes off and you empty out your tight tank.
Yeah,
Right, there's no, okay, I got
Yeah.
it.
The alarm is set at 3/5 capacity, so,
Yeah.
technically there should be a few days worth of,
Mhm.
storage above that alarm going off.
yeah, that's, Yeah, it does, it just goes back in the house. Like, I don't know if Lorenzo, if you were trying to figure out, like, does it flow somewhere else? But really,
Right.
it just goes back into the house.
No,
Just back into the house, okay.
Yeah,
It'll
Yep.
go into your washing machine, your
Yep.
shower,
Yep.
anything where water goes out, that will come
at the,
back
like,
in.
the lowest level, it's
Yeah.
awful. Yep,
Oof.
yeah.
Yeah,
Good, if, as long as it doesn't go into that, area where the conservation is. That's
Yeah.
fine,
no.
thanks.
Okay. Anything else, anybody?
Yeah,
Well,
how far is it from the brook?
It is probably another 100 feet, so it's probably 120 feet or so to the brook itself. The little tributary, it's a small, creek about, it's only like a foot or foot and a half wide,
Okay,
but it does have wetlands associated with it.
and then I wasn't really familiar with a tight tank, but I think I've got the drift. It holds so much and it has to be pumped frequently, right? Okay, all right, thank you.
And if it goes over capacity, it doesn't go into the wetlands, it goes into the house.
Mhm.
That's correct, yeah, this is a sealed unit.
Yeah, the tight actually means it's tight. It's like,
Yeah.
it's not gonna come out that way. It's going to go back where it came from.
Okay,
Okay. So if there's no further questions, I entertain a motion on this application.
I'll make a motion to accept it.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Meg seconded. If there's no further discussion, I'll just call the roll. Lorenzo, yes or no?
Yes,
Deb?
yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Meg?
Yes.
Myself, yes, it's unanimous. Good luck to the
Good luck.
owner.
Thank you very much, I will let them know, so you're all set with it.
Yes, I am. Thank you. Thanks so much.
The next item is a grease trap variance for Koji on Main Street.
Yes, and Jim is here to present.
All right,
So grease trap variance, so Patty's moving her restaurant, Kogi, across the street,
Yeah.
bought that structure. And we're installing, we have 2 3-bay sinks, she's got one on the main level floor and one in the basement. And we're putting two of the Big Dippers in. GB5, the W500s. And then when we went to apply for the permit, Margaret in, at the Board of Health, who I've talked to a few times and met, she wanted to talk further about it and was worried about the 3-bay bar sink, which typically we don't put a grease interceptor on a 3-bay bar sink. It's if it's less than 10 inches deep. More than 10 inches, that triggers my plumbing code. So this is a 9-inch deep sink, which they all typically are. And Margaret, and I think it was Dave, is he the sewer department?
Doug.
Doug. So I met with Doug, Margaret, Ed, and Bobby, the 2 plumbing inspectors. And I proposed installing a GB1 shear grease interceptor in Patty's basement, which is very accessible to get to this grease interceptor that takes care of that 3-bay bar sink. Cause they're worried about you're at the bar and maybe have a White Russian or a cup of coffee. And we all know what cream and milk do, and so there's a dump sink also, small dump sink, they're calling it at this bar, so I'm gonna attach both of these fixtures into this passive interceptor. I didn't wanna put it under the bar because accessibility. So I can put this within 25 feet of the fixtures, so it's going down in the basement on a nice stand. And that's my proposal, and we have submitted. Patty submitted, when I did the application, I submitted a contract with Wind River to clean that out once a month per Margaret's request and Doug's request. And the other 2 3-bay sinks and some other fixtures will go into the GB I mean, the W500 Big Dippers.
Those are the automatic,
Mhm,
Yeah,
mhm.
so this is a, you know, $8,000 cost savings for Patty. Which I know it's not a hardship, you know, I'm not
Mhm.
coming here in a hardship, but. You know, Margaret and Doug were on board with this and
Mhm.
Ed.
Yep.
And Bobby.
Yeah, and there is still, automatic grease trap for the kitchen part.
Yeah, there's
This
two.
is sort of like an
yeah,
auxiliary.
just for the.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think they did it at the new restaurant in Aho. They had a couple
Yep.
passive grease interceptors in there. So, yeah, she's gonna end up with two W500 Big Dippers. Which we know the expense of those. And one of these sheer poly. This is the one I always use when we do, I have a plumbing business, so commercial, and we do a lot of restaurants, and we use the sheer. The sheer grease interceptors, which seem to work great, and they don't rust away.
And where that's going, it'll be easily accessible to empty it out.
Yeah, you know, it originally showed on the drawings under the bar, but I said, you don't want Wind River dragging a hose and
You don't.
stinking up the
Yep.
building, even if it's at 7, 8 in the
Mhm.
morning, so we put it down in the basement. And it ends up being about 3 feet off the floor. We're
Oh.
building a stand for it
Okay.
and sitting it right on this stand. With the cover right there, so they can come
Yeah.
right down into the basement with the hose out the back door into Middle Street parking lot. And clean it out that way. Like I said, she has. One of the stipulations was she have that contract in hand.
And she does.
which She does,
Mhm.
yeah.
She does, yeah. So it's been approved by engineering, sewer, plumbing, and Margaret through the health division. And we also have the contract in place, so
Right.
all the boxes have been checked.
And I have these cut sheets if anybody wanted one or a drawing. I just brought them just in
Thank you.
case, you know.
Right. So I guess at this point, Lorenzo, do you have any questions that you'd like to ask? No, Deb,
No,
Amy,
No,
Meg?
No.
Myself, no, I mean, it's all been approved by everybody. Except us.
I'll make a motion to approve the plan as written.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Meg seconds the motion. I'll call the roll again. Lorenzo, yes or no?
Yes.
Deb,
yes.
Amy,
Yes.
Meg?
Yeah.
Myself, yes. It's unanimous.
Right.
So now you got all the approvals.
Yeah,
I guess you can move forward.
that works. There's a lot to do down there.
Oh, yeah, sure, it sounds like it. Is that the location? There was another restaurant.
That was
Roll
Roll
Street.
Street.
Roll Street.
And
yeah.
we walked in
Percy's
there,
before
what a
that.
disaster
Oh,
in there.
really?
Oh, my goodness. And you know what's great about Patty is she's I've done a lot of restaurants. Plumbed them and go back there, and she's one that I'll go back to. I go to the hot
Oh,
pot.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And Kogi, cause she's
she's
meticulous.
funny though, too.
Yeah, she's great.
funny.
But she's a very conscientious seller and keeps things clean there. So if you wanna go to a good restaurant,
There's just the
Clean
people
one.
that have been in the kitchen, right?
Yeah, so true.
I recommend it.
Thank you.
So I don't know if anybody wants a copy. You
I think
need
we're
to
all
look at
set.
cut
Yeah.
sheets,
You're good.
prints.
You've
Okay.
been approved.
We're fine.
Wonderful.
Yep,
You.
All right,
Mhm.
thank you very
Thank
much.
have a good night.
Dana,
Nice to
I'll
see
see you
you.
soon.
Yep,
Okay,
take care.
thanks again.
Okay,
You're welcome.
all right. Mark, it's your turn.
Knock your up.
Can I put the plan on the table?
Yes.
That's the way to do it.
I can share too. Everybody wants to do.
What are we doing here? Blueberry Road. So I represent Steve Anastarzi at 10 Blueberry Road down in South Plymouth. It's near the ponds of Plymouth. It's on Big Sandy Pond and all the small lots, they all have wells, and there's probably, this guy has 7,000 square
Yeah.
feet with a well.
Teeny tiny.
And so it's doing a voluntary upgrade of the septic system. There is a cesspool right in this spot right now. We have 3 wells that are of issue. There's a doctor over here with a well right in the corner of his house. We have Mr. Bakutis, who has a well here, and Anastasi's well's over here. Anastasi is like the mayor down there, so he knows a lot of people. Mr. Bakutis called the office, and Kevin, my son, talked to him and has no issues whatsoever. Steve called the doctor and says, by the way, the engineer is hopelessly can't find your well. And so he says it's in the front corner of the house. So we're working around that, and that's why we're here.
Mhm.
So we got 52 feet from the doctor's well to the leaching system. We've got 70 feet from Mr. Bakutis's well here, and we've got 62 feet from Anastasi's well to over through here. And so, there's a big hillside right through here. If the grade is elevation, say 74 down over here, we're 5 feet higher over in this area. So
Oh, it goes up.
it goes up pretty substantially. So, and where there's a retaining wall that is gonna be coming out, and they're gonna regrade it,
Mhm.
and he parks his cars in this area. So that's the proposal itself. Could we push it back and put in a pump chamber to gain a few extra feet? We could do that, but it's not ideal at this point. So that's the situation right through here. We've got, the wells are in play, and we're asking for the Board of Health to give us some relief. We did a well test, and the well test came back satisfactory for Anastasi's well.
Okay,
So
and what about the other 2 wells?
if the board wants us to test those wells, we could test
Well, there
those.
was a cesspool there, correct?
Yeah, we
It was
don't,
assessed,
we don't have to
yeah.
order them to test other people's wells. You really can't do that.
Don't do that.
You can order the person who's getting the septic system to test their well, but you really can't order the neighbors to test theirs. As long as we notify them that it's happening.
Yeah,
If I was a neighbor, I'd want to test my well. for
Yeah.
cesspool.
right. Well, maybe this is enough to
Yeah,
to
I know,
warrant
and-
the testing.
Yeah, and 50 feet is the state rule.
it is,
So if we were going by state rules, you wouldn't even have to be here.
Right.
right. We ask in Plymouth that anything 50 to
Yeah,
100, 51 to
I
100.
feel like, yeah,
Mhm.
and to your point, Karen, I like that you do that because then people can come and talk about it, but.
Yeah,
And I agree that putting a pump chamber in for a couple feet,
Mm.
it's not worth it.
We've gone to conservation. Conservation is okay with everything. So he's ready to put this in place and get rid of the cesspool. The green cards, if you want the green cards, we have them here. If you want me to, Dana, do you want me to?
You just have Patty send them to me tomorrow.
Okay, very good, yeah.
Is there any need for any kind of impermeable barriers here?
So we've got 20 feet from the leaching system to the house,
Mhm.
which is Title V. And so if you said, okay, do we want to have a 40 mil membrane barrier around this area to limit the effluent that might go in this area? We could do that. And would it be effective? So the leaching is gonna go down, it's gonna go straight down, it's gonna get into the water table affected with this big sandy pond. How the aquifer moves, would it end up affecting this well? These wells should be at least 50 feet down. So I'm not sure if a membrane barrier is going to do anything, other than, it's a worthy attempt if you thought there was, these
Yeah.
wells were shallow and we wanted to migrate, but they're pretty substantially deep.
Mhm.
And so
yeah,
it'd be,
Probably not worth it.
no,
Yeah.
It's really not gonna do
It's a
anything.
good question.
Yeah.
Is it,
yeah,
and generally we put the membrane barriers when we just can't get the setbacks to work to the house,
Mhm.
and where we put that roof membrane in to
Yeah.
limit that migration of that effluent,
Okay,
but.
okay. Lorenzo, do you have any questions?
I do not, thank you.
Deb?
No.
Meg?
No.
Okay, if there's no further questions, I need a motion from a board member.
I'll make the motion. And I'll second.
Teamwork.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So I was just saying to Karen, the guy that was sitting here a couple of times, he's Glenn Harrington. He was the Board of Health. He had Karen's position at Mashpee for
Oh,
20 or 30
Oh,
years.
I was gonna say a really long time. Yeah. Yeah.
So he knows his stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
goes back a ways, I guess.
Yeah. There were a lot of people
Okay,
like.
so we have a
stayed.
motion which has been seconded. So Lorenzo, yes or no?
Yes.
Deb, yes or no?
Yes.
Meg,
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Myself, yes.
Thank you very much.
It's unanimous night.
Wow.
Good. Okay, good to see you
Yeah.
guys. Okay,
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Okay, bye-bye.
So, next item on the agenda, which is really just a discussion. We're not going to make any motions or vote on it tonight. I became concerned because I remember we had a discussion when Aaron was present about tobacco use and e-cigarettes. And then the topic came up about oral nicotine pouches
Mm.
and also about nicotine infused toothpicks. And so I looked at our regulation and I said, I don't see any mention about oral nicotine pouches. So I contacted Cheryl Sabaro at MAHB. And I said, please look at our regulation and tell me or advise me if the regulation we currently have would be effective in preventing underage sales of nicotine pouches. And shortly thereafter, she wrote back and said, no, it does not. And we have a lot of concern about that because obviously it's something which is spreading among the younger people. And I got curious as to why, so of course I looked up oral nicotine patches. And it turns out, although I have a table of them that I could share if you'd like to see them, they come in about 24 different flavors.
Mhm.
And they come in about 5 different nicotine strengths. And it seems to me, just at first thought, that if they're putting them out in those kind of flavors, it's obviously something aimed probably at younger people. And according to Cheryl, there's 2 options if we wish to change our regulations. This is one of the advantages of having a regulation instead of a bylaw.
Mm.
Because thank goodness
Oh,
we
for
can do
sure.
this without going through all kinds of committees and town meeting. So you can, I don't know if I can get this up on the screen, maybe I can, let me see if I can do it. So you can see it. This is the regulations here. There it goes. So what has to be changed on the regulation?
Oh, yeah.
So obviously that definition has to be inserted. And that's listed up at the top. And then a little further down, it says under G, this of course is from the draft regulation that MAHB keeps changing and changing and changing, depending on what's going on. It says no retailer or person shall sell or distribute or cause to be sold or distributed oral nicotine pouches with a nicotine content greater than 6 milligrams per individual patch. So when I looked this up, that is the lowest level of nicotine. They go all the way up to 50 milligrams. Cigarettes usually are around, what, maybe 10.
So that's saying that you could, at 6 milligrams, you could keep it in a convenience store.
Yes, so then she said, if you prefer, you can also use the following wording. The sale or distribution of oral nicotine pouches is restricted to adult-only retail tobacco stores. Well, that sort of cuts off, convenience stores.
Mhm.
And so I'm not sure that that's necessarily something that should be included, so I wanted board sort of feedback about this particular issue. And then I'm gonna show you something else because, Cheryl actually said that we're also changing the violation fine penalties.
Oh. Because the state is, or,
Well, it's in this model. I'm not sure if the state is changing it or a lot of other communities are changing it, but let's do one thing at a time. What's the feeling of the board members in terms of rewriting it to include prohibition on use or selling to underage buyers these oral nicotine patches?
So you're not banning it altogether, you're just saying that it's part of our group that cannot be sold to kids under 21.
Yes.
yeah,
Okay.
Because we have gotten 2 letters which you
Mhm.
forwarded to me.
yeah,
Where there was some complaints, about these things can also be used for people who are trying to get over nicotine addiction.
I read through the letters.
And we've seen that before with the nicotine, with the flavored e-cigarettes.
Well, so when I look at those two options, I mean, we say the sale and distribution of oral nicotine pouches is restricted to adult-only retail tobacco stores. Well, then you can do the 6 milligrams to anything in an adult-only store, right? That's what that's saying.
So
can you give me an example of like an adult only?
Like a vape shop,
Yeah,
what's that one? down-
Brennan's
Oh,
Stone Shop right
Brennan's,
on Court
yeah.
Street.
I was thinking the vape store by the laundromat,
Mhm.
that one. But the first one says you have, that all the nicotine patches can't be more than 6 milligrams
Right, in order
So-
to be sold to
to
anybody.
anybody.
Yeah.
But then the second one says any nicotine patches can be sold to adults
Yes,
at adult stores.
at adult stores, but we don't have to word it that way. I mean, obviously, we can just say that, sale or distribution of oral nicotine pouches is restricted to underage, purchasers. Is not available to underage purchasers, only to those over the age of 21.
So it'd be a violation, just like if.
Oh, but
sold,
you
yeah.
would
It would be
But you would give the opportunity to sell any nicotine patches at convenience stores.
To people who are over
to people
21.
who are of eligible age.
Yeah,
yes.
so I've thought about that, they were talking about, I was thinking about this, and they were so. The restriction in adult only for vape pens, there's a limit to how much nicotine can be at convenience stores, right? Like, so if it's anything over 35 milligrams or something, it has to go to an adult only. Am I remembering that right?
I don't know.
It's not in our regulation. on that.
I don't know.
I think it's a state law.
It may be in the state, but it's not.
I think it's a state law, like, and so then that's why I was
Well, that
like,
kind of makes sense then she,
Right,
because I was wondering,
but
why
the
would you even
six-
bring that up? But that makes sense,
because
because
I
it
think it's
goes,
35 milligrams.
Okay.
Over 35 milligrams of nicotine in a vape pen can only be sold at an adult only store.
interesting.
I think, I misremember
It's
everything,
interesting.
so I feel like everybody should double check or
Well, it
triple
kind of
check
makes
me on
sense,
that one.
because that's why she would say, she would make that limitation in the pouches too.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So, yeah, the other thing, I'm glad Erin is here because, you were I think you actually mentioned that you thought that there was quite a lot of students in the schools that are now using these nicotine pouches.
Definitely within the past year, I think more kids have been like picking up on them. And the way you can tell is that I don't know if it's something with the gums. I don't know much about them, but they start spitting.
Ugh.
And then like when kids they start spitting on the ground because of the pouches, that's when you can kind of tell when you're using them.
That
The
is
same thing happens with people
ever.
using,
Yeah,
chewing tobacco.
Yeah, and I mean, I read through these letters. I mean, I didn't find anything substantial in the letters other than random facts that I couldn't find tied to anything else.
Yeah,
So, I mean, I understand the concern about restriction to adults to be able to have access to nicotine pouches, but it does say, so I did find it's 35 sale of electronic nicotine delivery systems with nicotine content greater than 35 milligrams per milliliter restricted to specialty tobacco stores and smoking bars. So But so you say no retailer or person shall sell or distribute, cause to be sold or distributed oral nicotine pouches with nicotine content greater than 6 milligrams. Like you can combine those, like you can say, all right, you can only do the 6 milligrams in the convenience store and the rest can go to adult only. Which is what they did with vape.
Mhm.
So I don't know why, like, I don't know why. If the board is concerned about. I mean, well, I guess it's all, how much anybody wants to restrict it.
I mean,
And I think-
to me, it's doing whatever we can to try to keep high school age students or younger
Right.
from becoming addicted to nicotine,
Mhm.
period.
Well, it kind of, I mean, I guess if we do limit it to adult only, they are supposed to be IDing you when you walk into the establishment. So that kind of cuts down on the opportunity for anyone underage to go in.
Mhm.
But when someone tries to purchase, as we know from compliance checks for underage sales, they're supposed to be checking ID too.
How, did you?
Yeah, but you can even go into, you can go into 7-Eleven, you know what I mean?
I
Anyone,
don't-
no matter how old you
Yeah.
are, you can go into 7-Eleven, but you can't go into Brennan's. You
Right.
cannot go in
Oh,
there
right.
unless you're 21.
Brennan's has had a sale, right?
One.
Yeah, okay, just trying to remember, cause I'm like, I don't know of any sales in now, but I do. I
Mhm.
mean, I've seen in Mansfield alone, in the past year, in a 1-year period, which was two tobacco, 2 checks. 25% of this, over 25% of the stores have sold tobacco to minors. I spent 8 years with 0, and now all of a sudden, there's, it was 6 different stores out of 23 permits that we have. And I mean, how many were here last time, like the
4.
18, no, like the one, that big round, like there were 18.
Oh, there was a
out of
lot,
40,
yeah,
like,
last time we
what
had
is
4.
going on with people, like I did, it just seems like I've spent years with 0, and now all of a sudden, like we had 4 and then we just had 2.
The good news for us is the latest round of inspections for compliance to the underage sales ban was a lot better in our 6 towns that are part of the grant program.
Mm.
And most of them had like 0 violations.
Yeah, I don't, knowing what we went through last
How many
spring.
vendors do you have?
23.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like, what? And it's like, I don't know what's happening and why there's more sales, cause I mean, when you guys had that 18, like, but we never saw that before, never that much.
Well, that was the first one after COVID.
Was it the first one?
Yeah.
I mean, I thought that was
So
more
I-
recent.
No, it was more like there was a really long gap in
All right,
inspections.
well, then that makes.
And then that happened. So it's sort of like the big roundup,
Yeah,
you know what I
because
mean? Like
everybody's
everyone was
like-
put on,
Yeah, yeah.
everyone's put on notice again that this is indeed
Yeah.
true and it does
Yeah.
indeed still
Yeah,
happen.
well, that's why when people say, oh, well, do we really need government oversight? Yes, we do. Like, if you didn't need government oversight.
I wish we could go back like though to like, why are kids starting to do this? Like, that's what
Yeah.
I'd like to get to. Like, yes, we can do all these regulations, right?
Right, it helps.
But shouldn't we
deter.
really think about why are they starting?
Right,
So how do we stop that from happening?
right,
I mean, with cigarettes, it did. I mean, they became there was the generation that stopped smoking,
right.
but now it's,
It's nicotine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any clue about that, Aaron? Because we're befuddled by that.
I think a lot of it has to do with starting it earlier, like early high school. It's a lot of like peer pressure, I think, to fit in. If I had to guess, I mean, I don't really know. I see it a lot in the bathrooms, but like who I'm around most of the time, no one really does it. So it's like my own question too, kind of to why. But if I had to guess, it's that and stress. A lot of kids, they use it for like controlling stress. And I know kids now, they're like, I wish I didn't start it, but
Yeah,
it's
because it
helpful at
is.
the time.
well, I can see why mental health would definitely play a role in it for sure.
And after the pandemic, there was a lot more trouble
Yeah,
with mental health issues.
or especially with teens.
The one that's age when it hit. when they were alone.
Mhm.
So I'm just saying.
And adolescence is a weird time anyway. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah. All the
you know,
things
and
you
then-
try and you wish you didn't.
Yeah, and then if
Yeah.
you were during the pandemic, if you were in that age group, it was just magnified.
Mm.
Yeah.
So I think for the board, it depends on, I would like to see some level of restriction. And I would be okay with, you know. I mean, if, I would rather see it all in adult only stores, but if the board feels strongly about the convenience, the access to convenience stores, I would hope to be able to limit it to that low level of, the lowest level of nicotine. Because, you know, if you like if they're getting a buzz off of it, like. That would be my preference is adult only. But if the board feels like they would want to see convenience stores to have access, I would want it to be the minimum.
So our next meeting, we'll actually consider what to do and take votes on it.
Yeah,
You have to have a forum.
At
Yeah.
that, you have to have a forum for that too first?
Mhm.
Okay.
yeah,
So-
yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
anytime that there's a regulation, we have to alert the public so they can come and they can speak on
Yeah.
how they
You
feel.
don't legally have to, but I really feel like it's the best practice.
Well, because we've always done it, I certainly would not make the stand that this is the one that you're not gonna do it at. That would not be a good look.
So the question then becomes, can we just schedule the public forum about this question prior to the regular meeting? Or is that
But
unwise?
you already have a public forum coming up on
I know,
January.
but that's another topic.
Oh, how many are you gonna have?
Oh, you mean like at the board meeting, have the public forum and
Oh,
then take the
at?
vote?
After-
Oh.
Okay, yeah, that's what I,
No, I thought there'd be, I don't
The
know.
downside of that, of course, is the people that are involved in that question that
will
come,
be there.
come in
while
to talk
we-
will be there. And
Yeah,
if they're there, you know, when it's being discussed further and motions are being made and voted upon, that could get awkward.
it could,
Well, but the whole idea of a forum is you have to give people the chance to speak, whether they're pro or con, whatever you're presenting.
right,
So, but once that part's over and you start well, now we're beginning our Board of Health meeting, you don't have to take public comment again.
right, they might give you
Right.
dirty looks.
Yeah, they might think like, "Ah," or make, you know what I mean, or make sounds or whatever, but I mean, you don't have, no one on the board has to acknowledge that they've already had their
Right.
chance to speak,
Right.
you've listened to what they had to
Yeah.
say, so.
And they can show up at the other meeting anyways.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they can be
They're
there.
persistent.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
can be there.
Yeah, so,
Yeah, I do think that if, based on timing, that might be the best option.
all right, so then when we decide the next thing, which is when you wanna meet again, then we can work on getting the information out for the,
There's
Okay.
only like two options usually, right? It's the first or third Wednesday of each.
yeah,
month.
the February 5th or February 19th.
Are we in this room forever now?
Oh,
No.
Okay.
Please.
No,
It's just like, when somebody said, I was like. oh,
no, we
okay.
still have our regular place, it was only because we changed,
I appreciate that, for sure.
because the first Wednesday was January 1st, so we really
Yeah.
couldn't do it then, so we had,
That's fair.
yeah, we had to be flexible on whether we're gonna put us off
Yeah.
schedule. Personally, I think the 5th is too close to the 30th to
Yeah,
do
I think so
back to
too.
back like that, I think. I'm comfortable with the 19th.
Okay. Find out about the other board members and see what they think. Meg, do you have any feelings about this and timing and how to do it?
Timing of like the forum.
Mhm.
No, I agree that the 5th might be too close. Let's space it out. I think I agree with what Amy's saying, but I think I'm just anticipating the response from the community might be strong, and to baby step it to, you know, allowing the 6 milligrams in convenience stores and then the rest in the adult. Might be a nice, like, kind of baby step toward what you were saying, which I think is like I do think that's the right decision ultimately.
Yeah, so if we go that route, we could also prohibit the sale, even the 6 milligram to underage. buyers.
Oh, 100%.
Right.
I'm
Oh,
sorry,
yeah,
I
I
forgot
was,
to
I
even
was
say that.
surprised. I didn't
Yeah.
realize, I guess I'm not up to date on all of this, but I didn't realize that underage could purchase.
I agree.
Apparently they
I
can.
thought that they couldn't.
Yeah.
I just assumed.
Can they
No.
purchase those things?
No. So
Oh,
what,
But we need it in our
we need
regulation.
our regulations, we can
Oh.
fine accordingly.
Oh, okay.
So because we don't specifically mention it, there is a
Oh, so
loophole to
it's just about
say,
Fining.
yeah, so if someone sold to an underage kid,
They'd say, well,
we-
it's not in your regulation.
Oh.
Exactly.
Here's the slap on the wrist. Thanks a
exactly,
lot.
we want,
That
we
definitely
want
makes
this
sense.
to be included
Yes.
in the underage violation section.
Thank you, that explains
It
it.
could be part of the compliance checks,
Yes,
because
yeah,
when an
yeah.
underage buyer
Yep.
comes in, if they ask for a nicotine
Yep.
pouch,
yep,
Yep,
same thing,
okay.
Mhm.
okay? Lorenzo, how about you?
Yeah, I've been listening in and read the letters and did some research on it. I mean, nicotine is addictive. We know that. The data doesn't show that there's any kind of strong attribution or correlation to any kind of serious adverse health effects, like cancer or anything like that regarding nicotine. But the key thing is it is addictive. It does, the way it works is you get addicted to it because it gives you that buzz, that it hits the dopamine and it releases it, and you want that, right? So keeping it out of the hands of underage minors, and I guess 21 is considered, because the tobacco or cigarette is a way that you get nicotine now. So I would be, open to hearing further comment, but my position or opinion at this point in time, given the data and information I've seen, is that it should be something that should be regulated and kept out of minors' hands.
And how about you, Deb?
Well, I agree that I think anything over 6 milligrams should be in an adult-only store.
Okay,
That's my thoughts.
okay, so I'll work on that, and Karen, if you'd set up the additional public forum as part of our next Board of
Okay.
Health meeting,
yep,
which I guess will be the 19th of February.
okay,
And I guess the way we do that is we need to start the meeting with the public forum.
Yep.
And then adjourn that, and then begin the regular meeting
Mhm.
afterwards.
Mhm.
And as,
But
as
that's
we,
February vacation.
Yeah, I
Is that
was
what you're
gonna say,
looking
yeah.
at? Yeah.
I'm not gonna be here for that
No.
19th.
I guess we need to check with the rest of the board members.
Mm.
I will be
Yes,
here,
I will be here. My kids are too old. for
okay?
February
Um,
vacations.
Lorenzo, can you attend the combined meeting and public forum on the 19th of February?
Yes, February 19th is open.
Okay, how about you, Deb?
I believe so, yep.
And I can't check with Dr. Reed until Dr. Reed returns from the cruise, but I will. So that's okay if you can't make it.
Yeah,
Then
it-
Deb is our
Oh,
alternate.
actually, I have a work commitment at 6 o'clock that night. Hopefully you
How
have a full
long-
board.
Well, how long is your work commitment?
It's from 6 to 7, and so this would start at what, 5?
Yeah,
Well, we could start it as 5, that's our usual time, but we could start a different time if we wanted to. If the room is available.
Yeah, well, that's another thing too, I have
So
to
you
find
gotta
out,
check on the Great
yeah,
Hall,
yeah.
because I'm assuming that a whole bunch of convenience store people probably are going to show up.
Mm-hmm,
yeah.
I would join remotely. That's the one day we have like something scheduled.
The good thing is it'll be recorded. Well, I guess if we vote on it, but we know how you feel. I
Yeah.
mean, it would be. And yeah,
Okay, so we'll work on that. The other thing that I wanted to bring up, because I was surprised when I saw this. If you look at the fine structure on this model tobacco agreement now,
yeah, I
um,
think it's,
what they did is, it says that, the fine structure is going to be something like 1,000, 2,000, and 3,000, but then there's an added penalty put on for violations of local policies.
oh, interesting.
which is 100, 200, 300. So I'm not even sure what happens to the proceeds of fines that are dictated by the state. Does that stay with the town or does that go back to the state?
I've never sent it back to the state.
Yeah,
If
it
ours
always
stay
stays
with
in
us.
town.
Yeah,
So according to this model, apparently the fines would go up by another 10% and the other 10% would be specifically designated as for violation of local tobacco ordinances.
Well, so that makes me think about local policies, like. So there was the ones where we get to pick what we want, like, do we wanna sell blunt wraps or not? Like, that's not a state law.
Right.
So you can find, does that mean that because it's not a state law, it's 100 to, like, if somebody's selling blunt wraps, rather than charge them 1,000, you charge them 100, 200, or 300?
Yeah, well, this fine structure, the 1,000,
Yeah,
2,000,
that's what we use right
5,000,
now,
that's what we have in place
Right.
now. And,
because we wanted to align it with the state, so
Right.
that's why we did that. So
Right.
now what this says, how I'm interpreting this is, they're saying, okay, you can collect that. You can also collect something that you wanna do locally.
well, I remember there was a version of these where you had the 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 for the sale to minors or a flavored vape. But if you didn't always have to, like, then there was another option to charge less for a lesser violation.
yeah.
That's what I'm reading this
This
as.
this fine structure was put in place, I believe, for underage sale violations.
I don't know what they mean by local policy.
Will that be kind of,
Oh, would it be in the case of the second one? Yeah, but that's what I mean, I guess I'm wondering what their local policy means. Do they have a definition of like, I think it's more like we have. Like, when you have the option to either sell it or not, and you choose to not sell it. And they get fined, like we had, hemp, not hemp, maybe it was the blunt wraps that were marijuana or something, or flavored blunt wraps. And it was in our regulation that we said, or flavored rolling papers, and it was in our regulation that said you cannot sell flavored rolling papers. That's not in everybody's regulation, that was in Mansfield's alone, but because we have the 1,000, 2,000, 5,000. People had to be fined $1,000 because they were selling
so that would be
flavored.
considered a local policy.
So maybe that's a little, because it did seem extreme to charge, but according to the regulations, they all got charged $1,000 because it was a violation to the. And I have a store who didn't renew their permit, even though we told, like all this correspondence, didn't renew their permit and still sold tobacco. So then I sent a letter, I said, here's the 4 violations, the board may decide to charge you $1,000 for those. I mean, all the paperwork was there, they just didn't send it to me, so it seems extreme to charge $1,000 on that, but. The board has the option to do it.
Yeah, I guess that if we were to go with adding the extra 10% fine for local violations, that's a local option, just like the length of the suspension of the sales permit. So if we did that, then we would probably be getting ourselves into a situation where we're gonna get a lot of people coming in, appealing the violation of the local regulations, which includes, in this case, smaller fines, as well as the suspension of the sales permit. And do we really want to go there?
I think that is so confusing.
It's gonna get real
I mean,
confusing.
I think it's good for the smaller local decisions that don't get fined, to not have to get fined $1,000, but it's like, just follow the rules and you won't get fined $1,000.
That's what I'm saying, I think I just like keeping what we already have. I don't
Simple.
wanna start fooling around with. It's 100 for this, to keep it at
Yeah,
1,000.
it's 100 for this plus the 1,000. Oh, by the way, we can reduce the extra $100.
Yeah,
And oh, by the way, we can also reduce the 1 week suspension.
but we can't do anything with 1,000, just keep 1,000.
Yeah,
Yeah, Does it really, is it gonna really motivate people if they pay an extra 10% fine?
But I don't think it's an extra, I think it's separate.
A local policy.
Yeah.
So if we had something that was different from the state, which we do, right?
Hmm,
We do have
Yeah.
stuff that's separate from the state, so we could say, okay, well, you violated the state portion of this, so now that's $1,000. You also violated our local one, so he has additional 100.
or even if it's the local, like, so we're talking about the tobacco, the nicotine pouches.
Right, so the under 6 would be our local. Right,
So would it be 100 if you're selling, 12 grams at the convenience store?
oh my gosh,
And then if it's, so then that seems to be, because it's not a state law that they can't, it's a local.
But $100 doesn't seem.
Exactly.
I slept on. the
So to
bridge.
Karen's point, do we just keep everything in 1,000?
Well, I mean, if anybody sells a tobacco pouch to someone underage, I think it's still the state law.
We were saying,
I think we could say that our fines are 1,000, 2,000, and
Mhm.
5,000. They
What-
align with the state, but that's what they are.
what happens right now? Like, so going back, because now I'm confused about what the state law is. Does the state law prohibit sales of nicotine pouches to underage? Like, because we say in our regulations, we're following the state laws.
I don't think it does. I think they're asking the municipalities to
To
add
do it,
this to
because it's just
this.
easier than having to do it.
Because,
if the
they
state
never
law-
wanna make one big swoop. They want
Right,
everyone
right.
to do it independently.
Right.
And then if the majority of us do it independently, then they'll decide to do it
Right,
Okay.
statewide.
So.
but then
we
that
can-
would be, so then our nicotine pouch sales would only be 100, 200, or 300.
Yeah, that's not enough.
Yeah. Unless we change it,
Unless we keep it at $1,000 for every violation,
yes.
which can be extreme for some of the violations.
Okay, so it does say Massachusetts state law prohibits the sale of tobacco products, including tobacco pouches, to anyone under the age of 21.
So it's
That's
it's
in the state law, the tobacco pouches, but does that mean then, is that the same as the nicotine pouches? Cause I know they
Yeah.
do use tobacco.
Oh, yeah, I see what you're
and
saying.
nicotine
Yeah,
as-
yeah, that's different.
But then the definition of tobacco product in our regulations is anything with nicotine, cause and I'm not sure if the state law says anything that they call tobacco is something that has nicotine.
So I think, I agree with you, and I think what they're hoping to do is that we will add the actual wording. Like, even though
Like, so
I agree with you, I even think our regulations say anything with nicotine, so in essence, our umbrella would cover this. I think what they're asking for is support to actually put that wording in. That we acknowledge we are including.
Yeah, I do think it would be helpful to get some level of explanation from somebody other than me trying to decipher it. Like, you know what I say, unless you feel pretty confident about what we're saying, but I never feel like I feel like all of this is as clear as mud.
Well, it says electronic nicotine delivery, and then. Yeah, even they don't actually come out and say just nicotine pouches.
So it might be just an easy way to.
Oh, here we are, including nicotine pouches
Oh, yeah.
to anyone under the age of 21.
Yeah. So it's a state law violation.
Yeah.
If they sell it to an underage buyer.
So they want us to put the wording in, just so there's no gray area, I guess, in
And-
our own.
In our
local.
own, and then with these two
Mhm.
options. It's either minimizing how much nicotine is available at the convenience store level. Or restricting all of that nicotine to the adult level.
Correct.
Right.
Mhm.
But I get like, and now understanding that the state law, if somebody goes in that's 17 and buys a nicotine pouch. The state, and they get caught, the state law says that we charge them the 1,000, 2,000, 5,000.
Yes.
Yes,
And if someone comes in and buys a pouch that's more than 6 milligrams at a convenience store, but is of legal buying age.
If we write this in.
right, that's what we have to decide.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
But
first thing I thought of when I saw the letters was, this there's other options to actually fight nicotine addiction,
These letters.
including nicotine patches.
Well, I thought that they were actually gonna add that in too, in a way,
In these letters.
that there was gonna be something that even the state would have to, yeah. Yeah.
I wonder how much that,
I know, it's so interesting because someone who's under the age of 21 can go into CVS and request that.
yeah, you don't need a
Mhm.
prescription or anything.
Mhm.
Right.
So, under the age of 21, you can get. Cause those are considered tools to help you stop
Right, right.
smoking, so that's why it's like
And they're
that.
not flavored.
Right,
As soon as I saw the flavors, I said, this is aimed at the younger
Yeah,
buyers.
yep, yeah, I mean, I think that's. I think what we can decide is, do we want to limit how much nicotine is available at convenience stores?
Mhm.
And I do think writing the oral pouches into our regulations is important.
yeah, I think clarification is always good.
If we're gonna do it,
Mhm.
let's at
Mhm.
least add that.
Okay.
and then-
Yep.
Well, I will work on rewording, and then we'll have the public forum and listen to probably a slew of complaints.
Mhm, mhm. Another good person to have at the public forum is Sarah McLaughlin. Do you know her from the MHOA? She's the tobacco control expert there, so I always use her for the expert opinions.
Yeah, we've heard her name quite a bit today.
We did.
Okay, so we'll work on this, so we're not gonna do anything more about it right now. Because
Okay,
number one, we have to have a public forum, and number two, the wording has not been finalized, so we'll skip on that. The next thing, let me get rid of this off of there. And if anybody wants to see it, see. Just let me see if I can quickly show you these other tables. Yep, there's one of them. So this is what's available.
Well, that's good to know what the strengths are.
So mild is considered 0 to 6 milligrams, but you look at the pouches, they're all. There's
Yeah.
nothing less than 6 milligrams. Medium is 7 to 12, strong is 13 to 19, extra strong is 20 plus. And when I started looking for all of them, it goes all the way up to 50. So it's a lot of nicotine.
Yeah,
Um. And these are the brands that they sell them under. Pablo, Nordic Spirit, Uber, Velo, VNU, and Zin.
mhm.
I put it together because I was curious. Let me see if there was another one on here that had all the flavors, but
Yeah.
trust me, there was about 20, 30 different
And
flavors.
they're allowed to sell nicotine flavors, like they're allowed to sell flavored pouches? I don't think so in Massachusetts.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think they are.
Yeah, I've never noticed.
I've never even seen them.
Well,
I don't even know where they are.
I
The
thought, I thought,
pouches?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I thought that the restrictions about flavored was mostly aimed at vapes and cigarettes.
But I mean, any nicotine product, like if
Yeah.
it lists in the state
Yeah,
that nicotine pouches are listed under the state law, I would assume that flavors would match that too.
yeah, I think so, because even like when we talked about other things. It's like even if it gives you, even if the name of the product. Indicates some sort of flavoring,
Mhm.
then that's.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's included in that too, you know, or as a fun little name to it, or,
Yeah,
you know, like
yeah.
zesty or something, like
Yep,
something like
yep,
that,
yep.
then that's also included in that.
So interesting, but we obviously have to make some changes,
Yeah,
period.
yeah, I mean, the good.
I
news
don't
is
think
that
we're gonna
they-
change the fine structure. As I understand, we're just gonna leave it as we.
Yeah,
I think
currently have it.
so.
And the good news is that the pouches are included in the state laws that you can't sell them to minors.
Mhm.
I wonder if the tobacco people know that, like the retail salespeople. Cause I've never
Well-
said it out loud. I don't know who would tell them.
Well, I know that, for compliance checks, the guy that does our compliance checks is copied on all of these messages going back and forth.
Yeah. Yeah,
And so he's aware of it.
I've never known a compliance check to ask for a nicotine pouch. Yeah,
No, it's always the same thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's just in my mind, like,
Yeah.
do they know that they can?
Well, he does.
I mean, I would assume.
I know, but that's
but-
interesting.
Yeah,
I wonder if, that's an interesting thing to actually bring up, because it is, oh no, actually, I shouldn't say that. I think the last route, there was something different. It wasn't just cigarettes.
I've seen the cigarillos or something. the
Okay, yeah,
cigars,
Yeah, yeah,
But,
I mean,
but I haven't-
theoretically, I suppose, if someone went in and was told to try to purchase cigarettes and was turned down,
Yeah,
then he can say, well, can you sell me the pouches?
well, they have the people that, the kids that go in to do the compliance checks have very specific instructions.
Yeah.
So I think they go in to ask for one specific thing, and if they're asked for ID, they say they don't have any. Or maybe, or wait, that got me in trouble one time. They can give them the ID that shows them too young. I
Yeah.
made that mistake in a meeting once and realized that was wrong.
oh,
Like you can, your 18-year-old can go in and show the 18-year-old ID and the person's supposed to say you're too young. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Okay, so that's
Yes.
what got me in trouble.
yes,
That's why I
Or
said
like
there-
a fake ID, do people
No,
do that
you
anymore?
can't do fake ID,
Yeah.
not like for the compliance checks, you absolutely can't, like you.
yeah, you
can't
can
try
show
to
your
trick
actual
them.
ID,
Oh,
or you say you don't have one.
Right,
Yeah.
right, you can't. try
But
to
we
trick
had
them.
one of our vendors actually the clerk scanned her own ID.
Yeah,
oh,
Yeah, I
that was
remember that
awful.
one.
Yeah,
and then quit before anybody found out.
yeah,
It was, yeah.
so. It's,
Yeah, it's, I don't envy the retailers that are trying to do the right thing and can't always
yeah.
because of
Mhm.
employees.
Yeah, it's difficult for them, for sure.
Yep.
Okay, well, why don't we just move ahead to the director's report? If you have something you'd like to present, Karen?
okay, yep, just a couple of quick things. I know last time I talked to everyone about the Sharps kiosk had
Yes.
arrived, and it is been so popular.
Good.
Very, very popular. People are very happy that it's there. People are using it. It seems to be it's quite easy to use. So we're very excited that's there. Also just keeping in mind the overnights of hospitality goes until March 30th, April 5th, so we have that list there. Just a couple of things about respiratory illness. There's so much of it. So just a couple of like reminders for people. Get vaccinated for flu and COVID, stay home when you're sick. Use hand and respiratory hygiene. Literally, that means wash your hands with warm water and soap. I mean, that really is, we gotta go back to the basics because it's what works. Again, always try to avoid crowded areas and increase your fresh air that you're receiving. Devin Dunneman, who's our epidemiologist through our Public Health Excellence Grant, put together some year-end review for us.
Oh, nice.
So you can see, the previous month, which was December 2024, and then the current month to date, which is early in January. But the last column actually shows the totals for 2024 for Plymouth. So,
Oh, okay, so like last year, there were 81 COVIDs at the beginning of 2024.
well, no, for January 2025, there's 21 so far
Right,
this
but the
month.
one, what's the column next?
Previous month, December 2024 was 102. And then last year total was 1,275.
And then what's the 81?
That says last year
Oh.
to date,
Yeah,
so she must have done this last month. I
yeah.
assume.
I didn't even put that in mine. That's funny. I copied over. Because my
I-
actual
yeah, I read
report
it.
ends with last year.
I read it as if in
Yeah.
January or,
And these are only the cases that are reported.
right. of
These are
course.
through Maven.
Yeah,
Yep.
So you're
Yep.
sick enough to go to. the
there's a lot
doctor.
more than that.
Oh, of course there is. Yeah,
Yeah.
there always has been.
Yeah.
There was a, in wastewater, for COVID data that I saw was double the size of last
Oh,
January.
yeah, that we always follow.
But
that.
like, so it's double the size of last January's COVID
I just
spike.
don't want people to look at that and be like, oh, like 21, that's like, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
not,
yeah.
COVID's going away, it's not.
No, it's not.
And the guidelines for what to do if you get infected and you have a positive test are different now.
Oh,
Oh, very
yeah,
different.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
If you have no fever and you haven't been taking fever suppressing medication, you can go back to your normal life.
Which is why I think there's a giant spike in wastewater.
But for the 5 days, you're supposed to be cautious and that you try to wear masks. and
Masks.
stay out of crowds.
But there's no, I mean, it hasn't been for a while. There's no, you know,
Right.
quarantine like we used to have with close contacts. That doesn't even exist anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, thanks to Devin Donovan, for the year-end review. And then the last thing I want to do is thank our Dana Burke. She has processed over 1,000
Wow.
renewals so far. Because it's our food time for renewal, so it represents the restaurants, the retail food, the caterers, the farmers markets. So there's a lot of that implements, as you can imagine. And Dana has been doing a great job, so I like to give her kudos.
Good job, Dana.
Yeah. It's a lot of work.
And that's only you, right? No help.
That's Dana. That is Dana, and
Dana and Dana only.
it's a lot of work. And you know, but it has to happen. It has to happen, and it does happen, and Dana does a great job, and she's really great too when people have questions, or, you know, retailers are questioning, am I still a caterer, or, you know what I mean, things like that. She's spot on with that, so we're pretty excited to have her here and doing what she's doing.
Yes.
And that's all I got.
And thank you for all that hard work.
Mhm.
Must be crazy.
Mm.
Beyond crazy.
Beyond.
Okay, chairperson's announcement, just the same things that you probably have already, read yourselves. But you might have missed some of the things. There was in the news some concerns about the black plastic containers. And initially they said that 85% of them were made from recycled electronic black plastics. Problem with that was that those have fire retardant chemicals in them, which are known to be carcinogenic.
Mm.
And then they all of a sudden reversed it and said, oh no, that was a miscalculation, there's only 10%.
Mhm.
But 10% of something like that that has fire retardant chemicals that are carcinogens is still a problem. And
Are
then
you
just
talking a black takeout container,
Yes.
clear
the
top?
bottom is black and the top is
Yeah,
clear.
yeah,
That's what
okay.
they're talking about. I told some other people about that and they immediately went into the kitchen and threw them all away, because the black is not recyclable.
No, it's not.
Because the machines can't read that code in the little
Mhm.
triangle. And so that they're trashed, basically. And then the next thing you know, you turn around and say, oh, we just found out that, these dry cleaning chemicals are really serious carcinogens. And so they are now totally banned. I don't know what the dry cleaners are gonna use, but.
Well, isn't there like what, you mean regular dry cleaning? Cause I know there's like
Yeah,
earth
regular.
friendly dry cleaning. which-
Regular dry cleaning.
Yeah, I
I
heard
think
something
that's-
about that too.
I think hasn't that been known? that
Yeah,
that's
just
a-
Yeah.
like let yourself.
All of a
like,
sudden,
clear.
they decided they better ban it.
Oh, all right.
So anybody that was using it can't anymore.
Mhm.
Then the next thing you know, they turn around and the Surgeon General says, oh, by the way, alcohol is a
Yeah.
carcinogen.
Oh, I did hear that.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the first thing I thought of was, oh, wonderful.
Yeah, that's where I draw the line. I won't dry clean, but.
I'll give up my dry cleaning.
Those black plastic containers, they're gone. That's it.
But the truth is that there is a reduction in the ability to metabolize alcohol as you get older,
Mhm.
for sure. And the first breakdown product of alcohol is actually known to be a carcinogen.
Mhm.
So it's a matter of how fast you get it out of you.
Yeah.
But the Surgeon General wants the same warning on the stuff you would buy at the liquor store and the 7-Elevens and any place as they have on tobacco. Just a warning that,
Yeah.
consumption of this
Don't-
product is hazardous.
Well, I guess
For
they have.
pregnant, I think it's
yeah,
just sort of
they have certain
yeah.
ones, but maybe they want
Yeah.
to expand what they're telling us.
And the cancers that they saw were correlated with consumption of alcohol were things like breast cancer,
Mhm.
but also esophageal and mouth cancer.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I was wondering about this, like in other countries where drinking is like more Like, I'm thinking like Italy, for example, like,
Mhm.
it's a regular thing, like, don't you think the cancer numbers would be like astronomical?
Well, it makes me wonder,
Sulfites,
because,
no sulfites. Well,
yeah,
in Italy, their wine has no sulfites, so yeah.
I was thinking that because I was talking to a friend on New Year's Eve and we were talking about European wine versus American
Mhm.
wine, because European wine bans so many chemicals that American wine doesn't. But I don't, it sounds like if you break the alcohol, like it's just the alcohol that's broken down, not necessarily the chemicals in it. Not that
You're right.
they're good, but.
The first breakdown product is acetaldehyde, and that's the stuff they think is
Mhm.
causing cancers, and it's also a neurotoxin. And just to make you worry if you're older, they said it's a neurotoxin, so it actually is gonna kill off some of your neurons, which you're losing anyway as you get older.
No.
Well, it wasn't that always said that, like, didn't they always say it killed brain cells, alcohol?
Mhm.
That was the high school.
But now it's
message.
getting plastered out there in
Yeah.
all the media.
Yeah, yeah,
And you don't have to worry about it, about the labels, because in order to change the labels or put that new label on the alcoholic products, it has to go through Congress.
yeah.
No reason
And
to
we
discuss
know,
that.
we know that's not gonna
We'll never see
happen.
Yeah, there'll be no public health soon, so it doesn't really matter.
So I just thought I'd bring that up. Possible future public forum topics, we already mentioned one.
We
that had
do,
in
yes,
Plymouth.
we have one, yeah.
But Dave Noyes, who I talk with usually at the end of NDCAP meetings, we're chatting on the way back out to get in our cars, because even though he's a Holtec official,
Mhm.
I converse with him.
Yeah, you should.
And he said, are you planning, because he's heard me mention something about concerns about the dry casks.
Yeah,
Says, are you planning a public forum on the dry cask storage? Because you can't get rid of the darn things. They're stuck where they are
right, and they're
Smart.
not that,
for a long time.
yeah, and I think the problem is that they're not as thick or solid as other.
European, well, the European
yeah.
ones are thicker. And in Europe, they actually bury them, except for the very top
Mhm.
of the container, into the ground. Ours are sticking up on a concrete support,
Right,
and they're not buried at all.
and yeah, visible from the
So I
street.
said, well, we certainly could organize one. But I would certainly want somebody to come from Holtec to provide information about, from their perspective, about the dry cask storage.
Mhm.
So I could,
Yeah, oh, yeah.
I can arrange that. And then the next meeting came up, he says, so when are you gonna do it?
Well, why doesn't handicap do it?
Mhm.
I mean,
Um,
they're the folks that were assigned that task.
I'm not sure, but I guess in terms of scheduling a public forum like that, I mean, all their meetings are almost public forums.
Hmm,
Because there is a lot of discussions that go on, and there's usually a fairly large number of members of the public there.
How many public forums did we hold last year?
Oof. Well, I remember we had a public forum about short-term rentals, but I think that might have been.
that was the year
before that.
before.
We had
Rats.
a short-term rental about rodent control.
Yep.
Mhm.
And I think you asked, somebody asked on the board, what happened to that?
Yep, yeah,
Because-
the DP, we were
Because
waiting
the
for
DPW was doing some kind of integrated
Yeah.
pest control
Mhm.
thing. That is still stuck in the DPW. But ours was passed as a regulation. And a lot of our regulation was inserted into that draft of the integrated pest management.
We did pass it, right?
Yes, we passed it as a regulation. I checked.
Yeah, that, if any town-owned
Okay,
property
all right.
wants to utilize
Okay,
rodenticide,
okay, all
it
right,
has to come
Alright.
through our office first.
yep, yep, okay,
With the reasons why.
gotcha.
They can't just say we're
Nope,
using it
I
on
getcha.
123 Main Street. They have to say
Yeah,
what they've
it's a-
already
it's
used.
another-
and-
It's another,
Mhm.
just a check to make sure that.
So it's not
people
the
aren't
first go-to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So the plus thing about public forums is it gets a lot of attention.
Hmm.
And our usual Board of Health meetings get very little.
But
Sometimes that's
I
good.
always like when, I like to have a public forum when there's something that something concrete could come from it. There's nothing that I should say there's nothing we can do. I don't think there's a regulation that we could put in place that has to do with dry casks.
No, there isn't.
Right, so then I don't think that's your charge.
That is spreading, reliable information as best as we can obtain.
Right, but I
from
don't
both
think that's
sides
the
of fence.
charge for the public health. I think that's charge for handicap.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the Board of Public Health's
And the
charge.
fact that they have those meetings, like people
Mhm.
that
Yeah,
are.
they're every other month.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that that's I think, to your point, that's the public forum.
I mean, I think they could certainly change their title for one of their meetings and actually say, this is a forum and this is the items that we're discussing.
I think
But-
when you move it from one committee to another, people go, why, what's going on? But if it's just
Yeah.
but that's up to the people to decide when.
And in the same, to be honest, I watch those meetings and the same people that go to those meetings went to the original forum that we had. It's the same
Yeah.
body that just moves from one meeting to another. So I don't,
Yeah,
I think there are other things that we can certainly address that I think are more aligned with our
Mhm.
goals.
So I'll inform David Noyes
Mm,
that we discussed it and decided it was an appropriate topic for the Board of Health to have a public forum.
I mean,
You
that's
gotta
just my
make-
opinion.
I-
I mean,
I agree with you.
of the same opinion.
okay.
I mean, it's important, I think, to get the knowledge out there
Yeah.
because
Mhm.
there is one country in the world, only one, that actually has a disposal facility for their used nuclear rods, power rods,
Who?
Finland.
I
do
was
they
gonna
do with
say it's
it?
one of those, I was gonna say Norway.
And they have dug tunnels, you know, like hundreds of feet below the ground and they're moving all their spent fuel rods into this tunnel.
Oh,
And nobody knows what's gonna happen. I mean, they just figure, well, it's out of sight, out of mind, and we put it as safe a place as we could.
Yeah, well,
So like, what are you thinking for can we discuss?
Sure,
Can we say
other
that?
topics, I'm open to suggestions.
Yeah, no, I don't know, I mean, I
Yeah.
know you mentioned it very briefly last time about like that meeting with agriculture and talking about like roosters and stuff, I don't know.
oh,
yeah, that's, actually, I have a meeting tomorrow, with the Agricultural Commission to talk about that a little bit more. So I will update you guys next time after I have that meeting, what's gonna happen with that. But we won't be dealing. with
Well, I know,
that
so that
anymore.
wouldn't be an example of like, that would.
Yeah, we wouldn't have to do a forum with
Okay.
that. We will just change the regulation.
Yeah, usually the forum is if we are going to put in place a new regulation.
Right, this would be like, it would just shift over,
Okay,
yeah,
or modify one that we
Modify
think
one that's
people would
already in
care.
place.
yeah.
Yeah, like, I mean, there's some that I think people are like, whatever, it's fine. Like, I don't think, we didn't do any public forums on grease traps, right, with the automatic ones,
I
did
don't
we?
remember.
No, but
But
we've
we
been
do-
educating for 2 years,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah,
But I think what might be interesting is to have a young person's forum,
oh, interesting.
What do you think of that, Aaron?
to invite young people to talk about
How about
topics
how
that
about
might
a high
be.
school students
I mean, I don't think it would
forum
come,
about
but-
public health,
anything?
local
About,
public
like,
health?
Well, no, we could think, I mean, we could brainstorm, we thought
like,
some
do our own
most,
little like needs assessment with them, kind of.
well, not even, like. I don't know, I mean, maybe Erin can help us with, some ideas, but we really haven't had that population, you know what I mean? We haven't.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it would be nice to do that. I think it's important. I mean, we've already talked even tonight
Mhm.
about what the pandemic did and mental health issues and, I just think it.
Yeah.
I think,
like that idea.
yeah, if we did something more youth
Mhm.
directed.
So, Aaron, if you could, sort of talk around in your class and see if that happened,
I can reach out to the health instructors too.
Yeah, I also for a Plymouth North student who's really into this stuff too.
or we're missing a
Yeah.
Plymouth North representative.
Yeah.
Yes, get them on board.
Okay.
Yeah, let them know.
We can do it, immediately if you know someone.
We
that
would
wants
love
do
to
it.
have another
Yeah.
person.
Yeah, she's working on a whole project about like health literacy and.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's really cool.
And,
Awesome.
and the MAHB and the state knows what we're doing, and it's pretty much unique. And we found out, much to our joy from our previous student from high school, that she is now dual majoring in biology and public
Oh,
health,
nice, excellent.
which makes me very happy.
Mhm.
So, anything else anybody wants to bring up? Any new or old business? Anything? No? Everybody shaking their heads? No? Okay, so the next meeting is gonna be on February 9th. Well, no, we're gonna have a public forum on January 30th in the Great Hall,
Mhm.
and I assume that local scene, I notified them, I assume they're okay with it.
Mhm. I haven't heard.
Because
Not.
the last time we did this, you actually sent them a, said, well, there's not gonna be any votes taken, there's not gonna be any motions made, so
Mhm.
this is gonna be a public forum where public can speak,
Mhm,
and they can't kind of go after each other.
right,
And Board of Health members may not necessarily participate in anything except maybe asking for clarification of statements.
Mhm.
So that's the way it works. And then our formal Board of Health meeting after that is now gonna be, what, the 19th?
I'm gonna find out if we can get
Along with. a
the Great
public
Hall,
forum.
yeah,
Yeah.
because that will need a bigger space for that, I think, so I'll
Yeah.
find out
Are we
about
gonna
that.
run into problems with the meetings involved?
We might. So
Springtown meeting.
I will send it out tomorrow, we'll find out.
Cause we have to have a large room, the only large room is the courtroom.
Yeah. So I'll find out what's available.
Although I suppose theoretically, we could move it to the library. They have a fairly large meeting room.
They do, is it capable to be recorded and have remote access? Oh, hello,
Say hello to the owl.
hello, owl, okay.
How late are they open?
I think they're open in the evenings. I don't know how late they are,
Eight or
but if we
nine.
needed to, we could check to find out.
Yeah, I definitely will.
And if there's nothing else, I'd entertain a motion from anybody who wishes to make it to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a
I'll second,
second? Made by Amy, seconded by Meg. Lorenzo, yes or no?
Yes.
Yeah, yes or no?
Yes.
Amy,
Yes.
Meg? Myself, yes. The meeting is officially adjourned.